what's up? Welcome to SI Now. I'm Maggie, that is Robin. Today we are dedicating the entire show to previewing the upcoming NBA season.
It's here.
It begins on Tuesday. That's crazy. We have plenty to get to. We're going to tell you what the NBA scouts are saying about the best and the worst teams in the league. You're going to hear from Joel Embiid and the 76ers about where they are in the process, capital T, capital P. Plus, we're going to answer the question, can anyone beat the Warriors in their quest for 3 titles in 4 years? So with us today, Rohan, Nadkarni from The Crossover, and NBA insider Jared Zwerling is here. First, guys, we're just going to talk storylines that you are going to be watching as the season tips off. Rohan, what's at the top of your mind?
I mean, the first things first. I mean, opening night's going to be crazy. The Cavs, Celtics, Kyrie Irving versus LeBron. I think that's probably what I'm looking at right now is just kind of the best way to start the season, I think, is a rivalry like that. Those two guys going head-to-head, what's that going to be like? I think these are the kinds of stories that bring out the best in players, right? When they're kind of being challenged. Kyrie is going on some screed against Cleveland this week, too, which is kind of incredible, all the things he's saying about that city. So I think, kind of number one, that's what I'm looking at is, opening night, starting it off, Kyrie versus LeBron.
Yeah, of course, he had to say that Boston had a good
A
field.
live city.
All kinds of basketball. He's going full field. Jared, what are you looking at as the season starts?
I'm looking at Minnesota. Can they finish top 5 in the West? New expectations. Andrew Wiggins, big contract. Anthony Towns could be a first-time All-Star. Jimmy Butler, obviously new player in the system there. Taj Gibson, great defensive player. Under Tibbs, second year under Tibbs, can they improve defensively? Finally, last year, really poor defensive team. Offense, they're going to do a great job, over maybe 110, 150 points a game. Can they get that defense going and really maintain that combination? So Minnesota, a lot of new things in that city there. Can they finish top 5 in the West? We'll see.
Well, we're going to be looking at that. Robin, what about you?
Well, you heard Rohan mention Kyrie versus LeBron. Obviously, that is the storyline to start the season. Kyrie's already talking trash about Cleveland. But if we're looking for another one, you mentioned the Warriors. Who's going to beat them? What about the Western Conference? Which of the retooled teams added enough to compete? Is it the Rockets with CP3? Is it the Thunder with Paul George and, of course, Carmelo Anthony? That will be very intriguing to see if one of those teams can go from a very good level to that upper stratosphere.
Okay, for me, I'm looking at Boogie Cousins. Why are we not talking about Boogie Cousins? This is someone who's going to be a free agent at the end of the year. The Pelicans are projected to have like the 5th worst record in the Western Conference. We don't think they're going anywhere. Their coach is already on the hot seat. So will he get traded by the deadline, and can he get traded to a contending team? And it's not just about the basketball with Boogie. I think it's about the entire trajectory of his career, and can he actually be a winner in the NBA? And I think a lot of those questions may get answered this season. And of course, basketball can be a purely numbers game. It's time for a new segment we're calling One Number. So Jared, give us a number that you think will tell a story this season in the NBA.
I think big for me is 36.4% for James Harden three-point shooting from his career. James is going to get a lot of pick-and-pop opportunities with Chris Paul, obviously stretching the defense out, shooting that 3, even off the ball. Chris Paul is going to do a lot of ball handling. Can now James Harden shoot that 3 off the ball, especially in the corner? That's been a weakness of his. He shoots a lot of threes. As you know, the whole Rockets team shoots a lot of threes, but now Harden will be playing off the ball, so we'll see how that incorporates into the defense with opposing teams. Now, when you have Harden shooting threes now, the defense comes out. Can they get that ball moving and really spread the floor out? So we'll see how Harden can do that now playing with Chris Paul.
You guys are going really specific with your numbers. 36.4%. Rohan, what's your number?
Oh, I got another specific one for you, Maggie. We're going to go with LeBron James' career minutes played, regular season and playoffs. It's over 50,000. I think it's something like 50,344?
399.
99. It's just incredible the number of minutes he's played, and I think we're taking it for granted every year. We just assume his team is going to be in the finals at this point. When is the LeBron peak going to end? When is he going to be on that downswing? I mean, the last time we saw LeBron James, he made history as the first player to average a triple-double in the NBA Finals. He's still at the top of his game, but are we taking it for granted just how long he can play at this level? If he's on a downslide even the slightest bit, that opens up things for the Eastern Conference. I mean, you look at the Cavs, I'm sure we'll get to it at some point. The way they're constructed, it's not necessarily a championship team. They just happen to be, in the land of the blind, they have one eye in the Eastern Conference. That's just how bad the East is. But, if LeBron's game starts to slip even a little bit, that team could be in trouble.
I went back and looked at it. LeBron James was actually first in minutes per game in the NBA last year. Robin, what's your number?
I'll go with, speaking of minutes, the usage for Russell Westbrook. And this is one of those numbers that people say, the game is played on courts, not calculators. But if you look at Russell Westbrook, he broke all records for the usage rate statistic, which estimates how much of a team's possessions one player uses. And that's one of the reasons he was able to get a triple-double. You see it at 41.7% right there. Not to say that he wasn't great in getting that triple-double, but if you're having the ball that much and you're as good as Russell Westbrook, you can compile those statistics. The question is, as the usage comes down, can he bring the efficiency up when you're blending in Paul George and Carmelo Anthony?
Yeah, that's a huge, huge question mark. For me, it's a number? It's zero. It's absolutely zero. And tip of the cap to Ben Golliver for this one also. And that is 0 coaches in the NBA were fired over the last 12 months. First time in 46 years. That's crazy. Now, maybe we should have seen this coming because in 2016, 2017, 12 teams hired new coaches, so maybe thought the carousel would stop spinning at some point. Although I do not believe that this is going to become a trend. I think you're having 7 new GMs in the league this year. And of course, GMs, they always want their guy. So I can see the uptick in coaching firings happening as we move forward. You know, generally with players' contracts getting shorter, I understand that maybe the coach gets a little bit more power, but I don't believe you're going to see more of the Stan Van Gundy. They already took away front office, say, from Doc Rivers. You're not going to get that guy who does both anymore. I think that's going away. New GMs, as I said, I think you're going to see some firing. So that 0, sorry, coaches, I just don't think it's going to stay.
It probably won't hold up. Another interesting number is 42.5. The over-under for Sixers wins this year as the process appears to be paying off. Here's the team on its expectations for this season.
Process is exciting.
The process is building a team.
It's in taking a long-term approach.
Everything that we've been through, the wins, losses, you know, the injuries and everything that has plagued us.
This organization has gone through a process to get to this point, and there's going to be a process moving forward.
Season tickets are sold out. There's an excitement about this team. You know, over the next 2 or 3 years, you know, this team will have a chance to compete for Eastern Conference championships and championships.
As long as we stay healthy, I think we have a potential to win the title, and I'm excited about it. I think I'm going to be a big part of it, so I'm going to do my best to make that happen.
Joel represents a key part of our success going forward. We want to make sure that we put him in the best possible scenario to achieve that and realize that.
I know it was only 31 games, and I showed that I can be a top 5, top 10 players in the league during that stretch.
Well, here's a huge factor in me coming here.
Joe's a big piece of his team. You know, even though he might not be out there with us playing, his personality and everything that he does, you know, it's still, that presence is still felt.
I had a lot of fun out there, and to me, basketball is about having fun. If I'm not having fun, I'm not going to play well. It's all about positivity.
I love JoJo, his mentality, his demeanor. He wants to come in and work. Like, the things he's capable of, like, he hasn't even peaked yet, like, nowhere near. Once he gets to that level, man, it's scary to see what he can do.
I expect us, if we're healthy, to be, you know, challenging for a playoff spot.
Man, the sky's the limit with us.
Right now, it's all about getting over that hump that we've been going through the past couple of years, and then this year, like, our goal should be to make the playoffs. After making the playoffs, you got the conference finals that are there, and then the NBA finals, winning the title, and then do it all over again. So the process is never gonna stop, never ends.
That's the process.
We just heard from Joel Embiid and the Sixers talking about themselves, but here's what even an opposing scout said about the Sixers star, quote, Embiid can be the best player in the league. Definitely the best defensive player. He's so dominant, he can switch on a guard. He's unstoppable. Man, he's a two-way player. Embiid is awesome, but is he best player in the league good?
I don't think so. Let me quote my good friend Ben Golliver here. The best ability is availability, and we have someone who's played 31 games in 3 years. You know, I just don't see Embiid staying healthy, frankly. You need to see him play basketball at this point for a large number of games for, you know, and sustain that and play minutes. I mean, last year he was given this incredibly favorable schedule, didn't play back-to-backs, didn't play over 30 minutes a game. and he still got hurt. So, when you're seeing all that, I understand the talent is there, but let's see it for half a season before we say he can be the best player in the league.
Jared, take the other side.
The talent is there. I saw the next game against the Sixers. His game is crazy good. I mean, shooting threes. He's got that Dirk Nowitzki one-legged fadeaway. He's got moves that you just haven't seen from that center position. He's also very fun off the court, social media. He's hilarious. He's got the whole brand that the NBA wants right now from an international marketing standpoint. However, it's a point guards league. A big man being the best player in the league, I don't see that. I see guys more like Chris Paul, Kyrie Irving, Isaiah Thomas, the point guard position, really LeBron. Those kind of guys are really the ones that are facilitating these teams. I don't know if Embiid is in that position.
He's definitely a star in ability, and he's a star off the court. I think, as Rohan mentioned, durability is the biggest question. Now, whether he's the #1 best player, that remains to be seen. But as far as what he can do on the court, the impact when he's on there has been dramatic. It was definitely a surprise when Chris Paul was traded to Houston, yet one anonymous scout wouldn't be surprised if the Rockets struggled. His quote, "It's a knee-jerk reaction to think that if you add Chris Paul, you can't get worse. But history shows you that if you don't find a way to integrate everything, these moves aren't going to have the desired result." Jared, is it really a knee-jerk reaction to think that CP3 would elevate a team?
Well, first of all, he's got playoff experience. He's a really hard-nosed defender. He's great for setting the tempo defensively. Offensively, you know what he does. Pick and rolls. He developed that L-shaped crossover maneuver that really brings defenses in. Great at kicking the ball out. So you know he's going to be a great leader. Hasn't really won a championship yet, obviously, so he's struggling there. But he's great. I mean, I think he adds a lot of value to that team. Chris Paul will be great for James Harden, really giving him off-the-ball opportunities. So overall, staying the offense, defensively too, will be better. But can they shoot so many threes? Can they get back and really sustain that combination?
Rohan, isn't that the big question, is how Chris Paul and James Harden work together? You know, Chris Paul sort of scoffed at the idea of them both being ball dominant.
Robin, like a lot of things in life, I'm looking at this scout's answer. I'm thinking about my own thoughts. I think the truth lies somewhere in the middle. So this scout, in my opinion, is being a little bit too harsh. I mean, it's Chris Paul. I mean, that's a huge upgrade over Patrick Beverley. We're talking about one of the greatest point guards of all time, someone who's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer, who's still playing very much at the top of his game. I mean, he carried those Clippers team. He willed them into, for years, the Clippers didn't have a fifth player, okay? It was a four-man team, and they were bringing just, ringers off the bench. He willed them to a top 5 offense. In a league with Golden State, I mean, the Clippers hung with them offensively. So I think, that's a knee-jerk reaction from the scout, frankly, thinking it won't work. There are going to be issues, and, I think, again, we'll touch on this later, but who's going to play point guard, things like that. But it's still Chris Paul. He's still a great player, a top 10 player in this league. He's going to make them great, and I think they'll work it out. One thing that's happening here when you see all these teams coming together, these stars wanting to play together, there's a level of desperation in the league that stars haven't had in the years past. They all want to knock off Golden State. They're tired of people saying no other team has a chance. And when you're that desperate, I think you find a way to make it work.
Especially when maybe you're seeing your career mortality like Chris Paul is, but generally talent figures a way to make it work. All right, it's time to play a quote game. I'm going to read you guys an anonymous quote from an NBA scout while also not telling you the player or team it is in reference to see if you can fill in the blank. We got to go quick on these, so I want your fast response.
Okay.
You guys ready to go?
Let's do it.
All right, so just jump in. Blank is maligned, but I'm often overtaken by his physicality. I think to myself, how can this guy not be one of the best centers in basketball? He's a walking double-double. Who's that in reference to?
Hassan Whiteside.
What?
Not on
Come on.
Whiteside.
No,
Who
this
can it
scout
be?
actually said this player should be Hassan Whiteside. This player's been around longer.
Robin Lopez. I'm not going to get it.
Nikolai Vucevic. We played 6-man in Orlando last year, and should be obviously a much better center.
He shares the same first name from a famous character on The Office. It's Dwight Howard. That's the answer here. I don't know if the scout was talking about Dwight Howard in the past or Dwight Howard now. Just to see how the team gels and reacts, it's going to be interesting because they traded the majority of their identity. Some of the personalities they've added aren't known for their leadership qualities. What team's that in reference to?
Celtics?
You got it. Rohan, right off the bat, gets that one. And here we go. When guys play 1 year of college, you want them to get from point A to point E quickly. But they do stop at B, C, and D along the way. It took blank a while, but I do think he's figured out how to blend distribution with scoring.
Giannis Antetokounmpo? Because, I mean, obviously, passing yet.
I want to know why
he
he stopped at point E.
Think about getting from point A to point E very quickly. Which player would go from one end of the baseline to the other very fast?
John Wall?
John Wall
There
is
we
the
go.
answer there.
Great hint, Robin. Great hint, Robin.
Yeah, I mean, I do this for a living, right? What do you think Wall's going to wind up doing this year with the Wizards?
I think the Wizards are potential to finish in the top half of the East. It comes down to the health of their starting lineup. Their starting lineup, one of the best units in the league, played the most minutes last year of any five-man group. Are they going to be able to hold up? They still don't have much of a bench. I mean, Jody Meeks maybe gives them a little shooting, but I think Wall, as long as they're healthy, I want to see Otto Porter take that next step. He's got the big contract now. He's got to be more than just a three-point corner shooter guy, but I think Wall is going to have a great year.
Another team they might be competing with in the East is the Milwaukee Bucks. No surprise, a scout would say Giannis Antetokounmpo has no ceiling and can only limit himself, much like Blue Ivy, never seen a ceiling in his whole life. The scout also said the Bucks have done a good job surrounding him with the right kind of guys. One of those guys, Jabari Parker, wasn't around for the stretch run in playoffs as he's on the mend from a second ACL tear. Here's his story.
I usually watch YouTube a lot. I just like watch other guys' highlights, other pass. I like watching his stuff in the morning too because it helps my reaction time. Like I'm not as athletic right now, so when I watch him or other guys in the past, it gives me a little bit of motivation. It's something like a old thing that I used to do, even when I was a kid. Used to watch and try to practice the stuff that I watched on TV, like Kobe and stuff. So it's in the same boat.
With the second pick in the 2014 NBA Draft, the Milwaukee Bucks select Jabari Parker from Duke University.
Again, Parker, hard to the rim, right hand flush. A flush by Parker. Parker scores in the paint.
Rookie forward Jabari Parker has a torn ACL and will miss the rest of the season. Parker was part of a promising young core and ranked second among rookies in scoring.
Jabari Parker out for season after tearing left ACL for second time.
Awful news, yeah. Jabari was having such a fantastic season. First off, this is bad for him and his family and friends because it's going to knock him out for another 12 months. And then on the basketball side, the Bucks need him badly.
My first rehab, I was by myself a lot. I got a place where we used to play practice at, but like lately I've been staying here like the last 2 months, 3 months. Been staying with my mom, and it's been going better for me. I haven't been so bored. I'm not lonely a lot of times, and that kind of helps through the rehab too. But now I get to focus on me and all the things that make me happy. And it's been good so far.
It's time for the shot clock. Rohan and Jared will both have 24 seconds to tell us what the biggest obstacle will be for title contending teams. So we're going to start with the Cavaliers. Let's put 24 seconds on the clock. Rohan, you are up first. What's the biggest worry? Go.
I think this is easy. It's got to be the Cavaliers' defense. Last year's second worst defensive rating in the NBA after the All-Star break. Better only than the tanking Lakers. They don't really have a rim protector. I mean, they're starting Kevin Love at center now. What's that going to be like? You look at their guard situation, starting Derrick Rose and Dwayne Wade, guys who were huge minuses on defense last season. It's going to be a layup line for other teams. It's so much pressure on guys like LeBron and Jay Crowder to be those wing stoppers. I don't know if they can get it done.
All right, Jared, biggest worry for the Cavaliers. You have 24 seconds. Go.
I'm going to say health. LeBron's out right now, sore left ankle. Isaiah Thomas, when is he going to be back? December, January? Derrick Rose with his knees. Dwayne Wade, 35, turning 36 next year. How is he going to look? This could be their fourth straight run of the NBA Finals. Can they sustain that many minutes throughout the whole season? You got Channing Frye, Richard Jefferson. This is an older roster, so I'm very concerned with the health. Can they maintain this full season and potentially beat the Warriors in the finals next year?
All right, great points by both of you. But if I'm scoring, I'm going to go with Rohan and defense on this one just because I think seasoned teams might not necessarily be such a bad thing. I'm going to get to Rohan. Next up, Boston. Give me an obstacle that they are going to face on the way to the title. Jared, this time I'm going to start with you. You have 24 seconds. Go.
Well, I'm going to say depth. You lose Avery Bradley, you lose Jay Crowder. So clearly, can they withstand that? Obviously, looking ahead, that's going to be a big question looking ahead. Also, can they screen enough guys in this offense? You know, Al Horford, center, full forward, but he's not big enough. They have a lot of depth, not really at the forward center position. So can they really get guard play going there? So that's going to be something I'm going to be watching looking ahead for sure.
Okay, Boston and their depth. Rohan, you have 24 seconds. What do you think is going to be their biggest obstacle? 24 seconds on the clock, please. Let's go.
I'm kind of in a similar mode with Jared here. I'm just going to say, like, they're role players. I mean, last year you had guys like Jay Crowder, Avery Bradley. When you kind of have a surprise one seed, what like Boston did last year, it's because you have guys who are giving it their all every night, guys who aren't quote-unquote star players who kind of lift the team. Do they have that this year? I mean, Kyrie's been on a team that hasn't cared about the regular season in a long time. I just don't know if they have the right mix. I mean, last year Brad Stevens could turn to a lot of guys to kind of bring that energy. I don't know if they'll have that same, kind of.
Okay, chemistry, depth. I'm going to go with Jared and say depth on this one, although chemistry I think is also going to play into it. Let's move on to Oklahoma City. This is going to be quite the experiment. Rohan, 24 seconds. What will be their biggest obstacle? Go.
I mean, I think this one's obvious. It's how quickly can their three guys come together? The first thing they're going to have to figure out is who is going to be the second option. Is it going to be Paul George, like he was expecting when he came over in the trade? Or is Carmelo, kind of going to assume that role? Is Russ really going to be able to, work the ball around? Last year we saw what he did going kind of full kamikaze in the playoffs there, really taking it on his own to hoist 40 shots a game. It's going to be a challenge for him to make sure everyone's getting the ball.
I've never heard it put that way, but I do get it. Full kamikaze. Okay, Jared, biggest obstacle for the Thunder. You have 24 seconds. Go.
I'm going to say probably bench. You lose Victor Oladipo. You lose Enes Kanter to the Knicks. So, are they going to really have a great bench? They have a lot of young guys, a lot of inexperienced players, Josh Hustis, right? Those kind of guys, Alex Abrinas, Jeremy Grant, are they going to really be able to provide that punch off the bench? It's going to be a very heavy starting five. One positive, I do think they'll have the ability to play Paul George or Carmelo as a point forward with the second unit, but overall, not a lot of experience, so I'm concerned that they can kind of get those guys going off the bench.
I like what you're saying, but who needs a bench when you have Russell Westbrook? You don't even need it. He's going to do everything. I'm going to give that one to Rohan because I'm curious how they're going to make that work. Next up, the Houston Rockets. Obviously, a lot to unpack here. What will be their biggest obstacle, though? Jared, you have 24 seconds. Go ahead.
I think for me, it's easy. It's defense. They're going to shoot so many threes. I mean, they're breaking records every year with the three-point shots. They have so many guys that can shoot that. Even the preseason, like a couple nights ago, they shot almost 50 threes, 46 threes, almost half of their shots. So can they get back on defense and really maintain that spread, that combination of offense to defense? That ball is going to be going up there a lot. Can they get back in transition? It's going to be a lot of long rebounds. I'm concerned about that. So can they defend? Mike D'Antoni is a creative genius, but can they get back and obviously short things up on that end?
Yeah, always a question with Mike D'Antoni. All right, Rohan, Houston Rockets obstacles, 24 seconds, go.
I mean, who's going to play point guard on this team? Last year we saw James Harden kind of assume control of the point guard position, and he had the best year of his career, MVP caliber year according to a lot of people. Now you bring in a guy like Chris Paul who wants to slow the game down. He wants to take the mid-range elbow jumper. I mean, it's just going to be kind of a fight for control, a contrast of styles, and who's going to win out? I mean, James Harden can be a great off-the-ball player, but do you want to take him off the ball after the season he just had? I think it's going to be fascinating to see how that works out.
That is fascinating, but I'm going to go with Jared on this one because I think even though Mike D'Antoni is the reigning coach of the year, there's always this sort of referendum on whether his style works and if you can play no defense. So I'm curious how that's going to work this year. All right, we're tied up 2-2. Final, the San Antonio Spurs, their biggest obstacle in 24 seconds. Rohan, you have the floor. Go ahead.
I think it's their front court. You look at the way the league is trending right now. We could be in an era of ultimate small ball. I mean, the best contenders are playing centers just, for pageantry at this point, and then a couple minutes in, they bring in, the real guys. They have Aldridge, who faltered in the playoffs last year. They gave Pau Gasol a 3-year contract, which was shocking. They have Rudy Gay, who's never really known to be an outside scorer. Is their front court going to hold up against these three-point shooting teams like the Rockets, Warriors, and Thunder? I don't think it will.
Okay, Jared, 24 seconds. Go ahead.
I know this is always the topic every year, but age. Tony Parker, hamstring injury last year. Manu Ginobili, 39 years old. Pau Gasol, 37-ish. These guys can they really withstand this really young roster around these guys with Kawhi Leonard, who's obviously the young star on this team. So a source close to Kawhi tells me he's a little worried with this roster. Can he be really with this team long term? So obviously that age is a big question. I know it's every year it comes up, but this year I think it's going to be a big one coming up.
I didn't know we could bring sources into this. So a source close.
Actually, I think that's going to be the tiebreaker because Jared had the inside source. Kawhi is worried about the roster. You made great points, though. This one was very, very close. Jared, you win it just just by a fingernail. But thank you guys for playing Shot Clock. That was a lot of fun. We still have to talk about the Golden State Warriors, of course. But first, here's our own Ben Golliver, who has his pick for the NBA's biggest awards.
Joined now by the Crossovers' Ben Golliver to go through your award predictions before the season here on this preview special. So let's start with the Rookie of the Year. Who's going to take home that trophy?
Well, I think the guy who has the hype is also the guy who is set up the best with the structure and the teammates to take home Rookie of the Year. I'm talking about Lonzo Ball. I mean, this is not just a function of LeVar constantly making headlines. It's the fact that the Lakers have a pretty good cast of characters around him. Yes, it's going to be a young and kind of rebuilding team, but they've got some guys who can score the basketball once Lonzo sets them up. To me, it's a two-horse race, Lonzo Ball versus Ben Simmons. And when I look at the Sixers, I'm just not totally sure I see the structure there and enough supporting pieces to kind of cash in Simmons' assists. Unless Joel Embiid is completely healthy and good to go. In LA, they're going to play a very fast pace. It's going to be all designed around Lonzo. He's going to have the ball a ton, lots of minutes. I think he's going to be, pretty high up on the NBA's assist leaderboard. And I think that's going to just perpetuate itself. It's a big advantage to have that Lakers stage, that showcase team. And I think that hype will carry him to this award.
If Lonzo wins, does LeVar do the acceptance speech?
Yeah, well, LeVar's been promising titles and playoff appearances and all of this, so he'll probably try to downplay Rookie of the Year. He'll probably be making an MVP case for his son. It's hard to blame the proud dad, but I think a good starting point for Lonzo's career would be to take home this award.
Next up, Most Improved Player. Who you got there?
Yeah, I've got a guy in Portland named Yusuf Nurkic. Now, he started last season in Denver, didn't really have a role. He got traded to Portland and showed some real flashes down the stretch for the Blazers, but then he got injured, so everybody stopped talking about him. He came back to training camp this year significantly down in the weight department. He's in a contract year, which sometimes helps these most improved breakout player candidates. And I just look back to last year's winner, a guy like Giannis Antetokounmpo. He had a really nice stretch run the previous season, which had some carryover momentum into last year. I think that's what's going to happen for Nurkic. He's also going to be on a team that has playoff aspirations, and he's just a really obvious X factor. We know how far Portland has gone with Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum doing the scoring. We also know they need help, and I think Nurkic represents that help. He's capable of putting up monster counting stats. He's not one of these guys who wants to play small ball. I mean, he's a big, legit 7-footer, 270 pounds. He can pound you on the block, and I think for that reason, he's set up very well to put up numbers. They should be a winning team, and all of that should kind of come together and make him a really strong Most Improved Player candidate.
Now, I like how hotly contested the Defensive Player of the Year award has gotten. You got Draymond, who can do it all. You got Kawhi, the perimeter defender. Rudy Gobert protecting the rim. For Defensive Player of the Year, you got one of those three guys or someone else?
Absolutely. I think it's time to hand the baton to Rudy Gobert. It went from Kawhi to Draymond. Now I think it's Rudy's turn. The one upside for Utah with Gordon Hayward leaving is it does really open up Gobert for getting all of the credit for their success. In past years, I think there's been some question who's Utah's most important player. And I've always been on the side of Gobert because he's basically a one-man elite defense. He covers up so much when it comes to contesting shots and blocking shots in the paint. He's such a big-time presence. He's so consistent with what he does. And they've built their entire style around him and his model. They slow it down, play deliberately, and really just try to grind out wins. And I think when you take a star like Hayward out of that mix, it's much easier to see somebody like Rudy Gobert's value. And I think if Utah, with kind of an anonymous cast around Gobert, if they're able to put up like a top 3 defense again this season, to me, it will be very clear that he's the one who deserves it. You look at Golden State and all of their talent, or San Antonio and how they've proven it. Those are some elite defenses who are doing it with all sorts of different, well-known and well-recognized names. I think Gobert is just sort of in position to get all of the credit if Utah is still up there at the top of the leaderboard.
How about Coach of the Year? Does that go to the coach on the team that does better than we expected?
Well, here's the thing. I've been saying Brad Stevens is going to win this, I feel like, for the past 3 or 4 seasons, and he's never won it. So I kind of think it's his turn. Let's flip that Hayward conversation around and say if he goes to Boston and has a career year, or Kyrie Irving just really thrives in Brad Stevens' offense. I think the players are certainly going to get some credit as kind of taking the next step in their careers. But I also think Brad Stevens is really set up to get the credit too, because just look at the transformation he was able to manage for a guy like Isaiah Thomas. He was a sixth man, bouncing around, kind of a trade throw-in, not really a headliner. Under Brad Stevens and the way they played last season, he emerges as an MVP candidate. And I think, Kyrie Irving could have a crazy scoring year. I wouldn't be surprised at all if he leads the NBA in scoring. I think Gordon Hayward is going to be set up for success with his former college coach. And if Boston kind of delivers on some pretty high expectations after a really busy summer where they totally turned the roster over, I think that will really put Stevens in kind of a pole position as sort of the best coach who's never won it. And he finally gets his turn at it.
Finally, the big one, MVP. Who wins that?
Robin, explain to me how a two-time MVP, a guy who was a unanimous MVP, wins a title, gets the max contract, and somehow is an MVP dark horse. I'm talking about Steph Curry. I don't get why he's not one of the top 2 or 3 favorites. If you look at the odds, everybody's talking about LeBron James, Kevin Durant, Kawhi Leonard. Let's not forget about Steph. All the pressure is off this year. He doesn't have to try to work Kevin Durant into their offense. It's settled. We know they're going to win tons and tons of games. I wouldn't be surprised if Golden State won 70 games again this year. We know Curry can light it up. Just look what he did in China last week. 40 points, drop of the hat, no problem. And he actually had kind of a down shooting year last year, quietly. I mean, it was still an amazing shooting year for anybody else, but down by his own standards. If he has kind of a bounce-back season, I could easily see that magic that we saw a couple years ago that really built around Steph on a night-to-night basis coming back, and him being a really strong candidate as sort of, the best player on the best team. And I wouldn't be surprised at all either if there was a backlash, because remember all the talk, Westbrook wins MVP, even though his team didn't really win that much. I wouldn't be surprised at all if some voters decide this year, hey, let's give it to the best guy on a winning team. Let's get back to sort of what this award was about in previous seasons. And that could really favor a guy like Steph Curry or Kevin Durant. I think they're both excellent candidates.
It's not my pick. It's yours. You've got Steph Curry. I'm pretty sure the Warriors are going to win plenty of games. The crossover is Ben Golliver. Thank you for your preseason award predictions.
Thanks, Robin.
Robin, we haven't talked about the best of the worst. In what other league is the worst team as intriguing as the best team? Well, 2 very intriguing teams that are not expected to do much are the Knicks and the Lakers. Let's open this up to Rohan and Jared. Also, if you're betting on the future of these 2 teams, if you're buying stock in one of them, I guess, Rohan, who would you choose?
I think you got to take the Lakers, right? I mean, why not? They got, that young piece in Lonzo Ball. They got the free agent recruiter in Magic Johnson, also in the Twitter Hall of Fame. I think the big thing for the Lakers right now is they'll probably have that possibility to create a lot of cap space next summer. And guys want to play there. I mean, Paul George, a lot of guys seem to want to play there. So I think you got to take the Lakers.
Jared?
Yeah, Lakers too. A lot of cap space, like Ron mentioned. Lonzo Ball, you want a great point guard to start your team. Jordan Clarkson, Brandon Ingram looks very good in the preseason. Got the cool new hair going. Has a great new flavor to his game. Yeah, Kyle Kuzma. I texted CJ McCollum yesterday. I was doing an NBA Fantasy League. I said, who is your sleeper pick in fantasy? He said Kyle Kuzma. So watch this kid, 2nd round pick. Had a great showing in Vegas Summer League. So I think the Lakers, I think they have a lot of star buzz. And when you have Lonzo running the ship there, they're going to play very fast. Defense will be a big question, but they're young. A lot of good pieces around Magic and Rob Pelinka building that team up. And could they get Paul George next year? We'll see.
Situation-wise, I might take the Knicks. The Lakers have sort of been Knicks West over the last several years, and both teams putting on their little film productions to bring in free agents, and they never come. Porzingis has already proven himself to a certain degree in the league. Hardaway Jr., I kind of like that signing. Most didn't. They're going to get their draft pick this year, but I can't pick the Knicks because of management. At least Lakers have new management. Luke Walton, a young coach who's had success, and the Knicks have won 1 playoff series since I graduated from high school. So how can I really go with them?
I got to go with you guys. You can't pick the Knicks. It's a total dysfunction, dumpster fire, all the things that we've been calling them for the last decade or so. You have Jeff Hornacek on the hot seat. We don't even know if he's a good coach. The Phil Jackson experiment was just a burning flames of, high school science experiments have gone better than Phil Jackson. And we're probably a little less expensive. So I'm going to go with
Let me ask you guys, look into
Lakers.
your crystal ball. Do you think Porzingis is even on the Knicks 4 years from now?
I do, because I think they're going to pay him. I mean, I still think that he's so ingratiated in the fan base here, and I think he's gonna do the mellow where he like wants to win in New York, and they're gonna be able to offer more than anybody. And why wouldn't you take it?
You know, the biggest hindrance for Porzingis' career is probably playing for the Knicks. Now, no NBA preview show is complete without answering the underlying question of the entire season: can anyone beat the Warriors? Jared, go ahead, start first.
I don't think it can happen, honestly. They just have too much star power, too much depth. Nick Young off the bench now. JaVale McGee, they got him back. They have a nice bench, obviously, around that starting five. Thunder got very good, Paul George, Carmelo, but they have a very front-loaded starting five. The Rockets will be interesting with Chris Paul and James Harden. Can they sustain enough offense to beat the Warriors? Defensively, they're obviously going to take a step back, I think, but a lot of offense there. The Spurs, you know, always in the mix of the top 2-3 teams, but the Warriors, Steph Curry shot a poor percentage last year from three. Imagine if he goes to 44% or 45% playing with KD in that second year together. That would be really scary to watch. Steph could be in that MVP conversation this year, so something also to watch too. They're just scary. You know, they're going to be really a team I think that just can't be beat.
Listen, I like the Thunder as a challenger this year. Something I think people haven't talked about enough, what they can do defensively against the Warriors with Roberson and Paul George on the wing. With Patrick Patterson in there now as a small ball five. They are building the right type of challenger for the Warriors, but they're a year away. They don't have enough pieces. Jared brought this up. They don't have the depth. Nick Young, Omri Caspi off the bench, JaVale McGee. The Warriors can play any style of basketball, and they're the best at small ball team. I don't think anyone can challenge them right now.
The other thing, too, about the Thunder, if they are the team that poses the best defensive challenge, Paul George basically said, if we don't make it to the Western Conference Finals, I'm likely going to be out of here. We'll see if he means it. What do you think? Without
Injury, it's the Warriors. The Warriors weren't constructed unfairly, but they have an unfair team. A 73-win team, the most ever, added Kevin Durant. And I think that's about all you have to say.
Yeah, I mean, they lost one game in the playoffs last year. One game. That's it.
And one thing, too, versatility. Imagine KD at the 5 or Dre at the 5. I mean, that's something that you can't match up against in those
Kevin Durant's the best center in the NBA.
Their fourth best player scored 37 points in a quarter.
KD and Steph and pick and pops. I mean, those kind of things are the way they can play with so many different lineups and combinations. It's the scariest thing with the Warriors.
We'll see coming up because the NBA season tips off on Tuesday. Of course, SI will have you covered as the season rolls along. Thanks to Rohan, Jared, Maggie, of course.
I do what I can.
She and I will be back on SI Now Live tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. Eastern. Kyrie, LeBron, the Warriors. NBA season's almost here.
I don't know if LeBron's going to play, though.